Turnovers are such an underrated dessert and you don't really see them much these days, so I thought I'd make up a recipe for you guys to enjoy. In this one we're going to be covering both baked and fried versions, which are both extremely easy to make and taste absolutely incredible. Please sit back, relax and enjoy.
Alright guys, to start this off, add 500 grams or 1.1 pounds of frozen mixed berries into a saucepan along with 1/3 of a cup or 80 grams of caster or fine sugar. Slice one large lemon in half and extract the juice from both halves either with your hands or a citrus juicer. Add the juice to the saucepan to add a nice acidic freshness, then make your way over to a stovetop, placing it onto the largest burner over a high heat. With this now, give it a good mix to allow the sugar to completely coat the berries, and whilst mixing regularly, bring it to a boil. Now that this is at a boil, reduce the heat slightly to medium-high, give the mixture a good stir, and allow this to simmer away for 9 minutes to reduce and become thick, again stirring it regularly. After 9 minutes, what you should have is something that looks like this, which is a thick sauce or thick syrup-like consistency, with the berries completely broken down, and that means this can then be taken off the heat and poured into a bowl to completely cool down. Firstly, I want to apologise for this being out of focus, and secondly, this will last up to 1 week in the fridge or 12 months in the freezer if you wanted to make this ahead of time or if you have leftovers. Now once our berry compote is cool, we're going to need 2 sheets of defrosted puff pastry, to which we're going to slice into 4 even-sized squares. In each square, place roughly 1 tablespoon of the berry compote slightly off centre, more towards one of the corners, and this will help us fold them cleanly without the mixture running out of the sides. When that's done, gently fold one corner over to the opposite side to create a triangle, crimping it at the end to hold it tight, then very gently crimp the sides, making sure not to allow the compote to jump out and make a run for it. Next, grab a fork and press it firmly into the edges of the turnovers to create a nice pattern and to allow these to lock together really tightly. Also, this only needs to be done on one side, you don't have to flip it over and do it on the other side, unless you really wanted to. After that's all done and we have our neat little turnovers, these can then be placed onto a baking tray lined with parchment or baking paper, ensuring that they're not touching each other, because if they are touching each other, they'll stick and won't cook properly. Now to make a simple egg wash, crack 1 large free-range egg into a small bowl and using a fork or small whisk, beat it up until it all comes together and is golden in colour. With the egg wash, we can then brush it over the turnovers to give them a nice glossy golden finish, and if you're going to fry yours instead of baking them, this step can be skipped. Once that's done, in a small bowl, add half a cup or 120 grams of caster or fine sugar along with 1.5 tablespoons or 15 grams of ground cinnamon, to which we can then whisk together until fully incorporated to create a delicious cinnamon sugar to coat and top our turnovers. I will say that this is optional if you're not a fan or choose not to use it, and I know some people don't like or can't eat cinnamon, so you can just use plain sugar. With this now, let's sprinkle it over the egg wash turnovers, and the amount is completely up to you, but I do recommend completely covering them, which will give it a beautiful crunch once they've been baked. Moving on, these are now ready to be baked, so place them into a preheated oven set to 200 degrees Celsius or 350 degrees Fahrenheit and bake them for 12 to 15 minutes or until golden and puffed all over. Now for the fried version, place a large pot or pan with high edges onto your stovetop and pour in enough vegetable oil, canola oil or sunflower oil to fill the pot or pan by at least 1/4, then turn this onto a high heat and heat the oil to 180 degrees Celsius or 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Once the oil's temperature has been tested, either using a thermometer or you can see that it's heavily shimmering, let's then place in our turnovers one at a time, trying your best to keep them from touching each other, and fry for 1.5 minutes or until very lightly golden brown, which will create a seal, then flip them over and fry for 2.5 to 3 minutes or until beautifully golden all over and nice and crispy. Once achieved, these can then be carefully removed one by one, draining off any excess oil and place them into the cinnamon sugar or plain sugar, whichever you chose to use, giving them a good mix to ensure that they're well coated, and with the oil, turn it off the heat and allow it to cool completely, then it can be strained and reused. After 14 minutes, we can then remove our baked turnovers from the oven, turning that off too as it's no longer needed, then place the baking tray onto a heat-resistant surface. This now leaves us with the more healthier baked version of these mixed berry turnovers, and as you can see, the pastry has done what's in its name, and that is it's puffed up really nicely, holding in the compote very well too. and as for the fried version, these feel a lot more crispy and flaky, which is obviously to be expected, but just like the baked version, this is locked in the Compote very well, and as you can see, it's puffed up very nicely. To serve these up, you can literally do it however you'd like to and serve it with any of your favorite toppings, but in my opinion, this is best served with vanilla ice cream or some sort of fruit ice cream or sorbet. We can then add on a fanned out strawberry, then of course a nice mint leaf to bring out a great pop of colour to the plate. Last but not least, hit this up with a good old dusting of icing sugar for that finishing touch, then for the part that makes this all worthwhile, and that is, we can then dig in.
So there we have it. This recipe right here makes 8 turnovers and it can easily be doubled, tripled or halved if you wanted to make less. For storage and reheating instructions, I'll leave all of the details in the description below just because there's a few different stages you can stop and start and it's a lot easier for me to put it in writing for you guys. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to smash that like button, it really does help my channel out, and consider subscribing along with hitting that bell notification next to it so you never miss when I upload. Thanks for watching everyone, stay safe and enjoy.